What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Common Sense Living. So, in this video, I want to talk about discussions that have been going on the last few months around states possibly implementing a gold backed digital currency. Now, as far as I know, there's no real traction at this point, and I'm not talking about gold backs here, I'm talking about a digital gold backed currency. Now, across, around the world, these are going into effect, places like Zimbabwe. But I think it's still a very important topic and something we could hopefully see down the road. And today I want to focus specifically on aspects of what the adoption could be like and also explore how competing with the dollar could work. So, in my opinion, adoption of something like this in a state needs to be somewhat widespread in order for this to be successful. And to begin, I want to focus on companies because they might be able to make or break what goes on if this is implemented actually on a statewide level. So businesses, they got to be willing to accept not only a gold-backed digital currency as a form of payment, but they also have to be willing to pay their employees in that currency as well, in that sound form of money, or at least offer some portion of it as well. So, for example, I get paid every 2 weeks from my job. Maybe half my salary is in dollars, the other half I decide to get a digital gold backed currency. That could be for multiple reasons, like possibly if I want to travel, I'd want to have the dollars for uh, using them in a state that doesn't accept that specific form of payment, or if I'm shopping online or something, you may need specifically dollars. But that's something that's definitely should be offered, and it's important for several reasons. One, it's obviously going to increase the usage and demand of the gold-backed digital currency, but another reason is that it's going to serve as competition for the US dollar. And obviously it's going to be on an extremely small scale starting out, just because of how widespread the dollar is around the world. But I don't want to focus too much on that right now. I want to focus more later in the video. I'll talk about competing with the U.S. dollar, and now I still want to get back to talking about businesses. Now, businesses may not want to accept this, and this is because fluctuations in the price of gold. And this is one reason. There could be multiple reasons they don't want to accept it, but one reason is because fluctuations in the price of gold could cost them to pay more to employees in certain circumstances. So, for example, if the price of gold increases, then employee salaries, which is going to be a cost for the company, they're going to go higher, and that may that may be something that really turns off a lot of companies. Now, another thing I think is interesting to think about with this whole aspect of something money being implemented on a statewide level is how the federal government would respond to this. So for businesses, there may be less opportunity for tax deductions. Say, for example, if they're accepting more money in a digital gold back currency, as well as paying their employees out in that form of money. Now, it's not really clear how the federal government might recognize something like this, but I'm going to take a wild guess they're not going to like it. And this might not be a big deal for some companies. This whole thing around uh, the fluctuations in price, they may do something like use option contracts, but I have the feeling that a lot of larger companies would want to avoid paying that money out altogether. They may accept it as a form of payment, but in terms of paying their employees, that's something I think a lot of companies would want to avoid doing. Now, in discussing competing with the dollar, in my opinion, a gold-backed digital currency could really be a thorny problem for the dollar. It's not something obviously that's going to come in and replace it overnight or anything like that, but it's something that could really chip away at it. So even adoption by a small percentage of the population in a state could really help accelerate the process of de-dollarization, which we already know is already happening now global wide. But if it starts really happening within the country, that could be something really interesting to see. And when you think about it, this form of money, it really has two key advantages that most financially literate people are going to want. The money has that intrinsic value as it's backed by gold and or possibly silver. Silver could be something that as well that gets mixed in here. Also, it's going to allow that form of money, it's going to be digital, so it's going to, you're going to be able to transact instantaneously. Moreover, there's no devaluing that's going to occur because the gold backed digital currency is not something that can be printed like US dollars. It cannot expand that money supply super quickly. It's something that you need to go out. There needs to be resources used to actually attain the gold. Now, one other thing to point out is that since all digital gold is backed by actual physical real gold, people won't have to fear a bank run as their money's going to be secured in a vault and they can take ownership asset of it at any time. And I think that's a massively huge advantage where we see fractional reserve banking in the banks, where a lot of these banks they may hold 5% of the money that they're actually loaning out or that people have in their accounts. So it's something where this would definitely help people feel more secure. They wouldn't be concerned in any sort of an SHTF scenario about getting their money, especially if it's stored within their state. If it was, done on a national level, that's something else that's different. If it was stored in one centralized place, but being in a state, I think it gives a little bit more security. Anyhow, that's all I've got for this video. Please let me know any thoughts you have and hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and please consider subscribing to the channel if you're not subscribed. Thanks a lot.